What happened to Hitler's hidden millions? The question has haunted historians, treasure hunters, and intelligence agencies for decades. Gold trains vanishing in tunnels, diamonds smuggled across borders, Swiss banks holding silent accounts. Some stories are myth, some disturbingly real. But behind the smoke and whispers lies a tangled truth the world still hasn't fully uncovered. Chapter 1. The Fortune of a Dictator.
Meine Arbeit für richtig hältst. Ob du glaubst, dass ich fleißig gewesen bin, dass ich gearbeitet habe, dass ich mich in diesen Jahren für dich eingesetzt habe, dass ich anständig meine Zeit verwendet habe im Dienste meines Volkes. Gib du jetzt deine Stimme ab. Wenn ja, dann tritt für mich ein, so wie ich für dich eingetreten bin.
Adolf Hitler was never meant to be rich. When he stumbled into Munich as a failed artist, selling postcards to survive, no one could have imagined he'd one day command one of the largest personal fortunes of the 20th century. Yet by the 1930s, money began pouring in, from royalties, bribes, and outright theft. One of Hitler's most lucrative streams was his book Mein Kampf. By the time he seized power, every newlywed couple in Germany was gifted a copy. Millions of copies were sold, netting him today's equivalent of hundreds of millions of dollars. But royalties were just the beginning. Hitler quickly realized the power of compulsory donations. German industrialists, terrified of losing contracts or being accused of disloyalty, funneled cash into the Hitler Fund, supposedly voluntary, but effectively extortion. Krupp, IG Farben, Thyssen, Siemens, all the industrial giants paid their tribute. Money bought them favor, protection, and access to Nazi contracts. For Hitler, it was a river of cash flowing directly to his accounts. Then came the theft of entire nations. As the Wehrmacht rolled across Europe, art, gold, and currency were seized from occupied states. The central banks of Austria, Poland, Czechoslovakia, and beyond were emptied. But Hitler didn't just plunder governments, he plundered people. Jewish families deported to camps were stripped of their jewelry, gold teeth, bank accounts, even life insurance policies. The SS managed this with cold efficiency, funneling wealth into accounts managed by the Reichsbank and laundered through neutral nations like Switzerland. By 1945, Hitler was not just the Führer of Germany, he was, by any calculation, one of the richest men alive. Estimates of his personal assets range from $750 million to over $5 billion in today's money. But as his empire collapsed, so too did the certainty of where all that money went. The burning question, did it all vanish in the rubble of Berlin? Or is it still out there, hidden, waiting? Chapter 2. The Gold Train and the Vanishing Treasures. Few legends capture the imagination like the story of the Nazi gold train. According to survivors, as the Red Army closed in on Silesia in 1945, a heavily guarded train, loaded with gold, art, and jewels, was sent racing through the mountains. Then, it vanished. Some say it was sealed in tunnels near Wałbrzych, Poland. Others believe it crossed into Austria. Theories abound, but no conclusive evidence has ever been found. Treasure hunters have risked their lives digging into collapsed mines, convinced billions in Nazi loot are still buried. In 2015, two explorers even claimed they had radar scans proving a massive train was hidden underground. The Polish government dispatched teams, the media went wild, but in the end, nothing, just empty tunnels. Was the gold train a myth? Or was it emptied long ago, its contents quietly dispersed? But the gold train was just one chapter. Across Europe, caches of Nazi treasure were rumored to be hidden in lakes, caves, and castles. Lake Toplitz in Austria, for instance, became infamous when divers discovered crates of counterfeit British banknotes, part of Operation Bernhard, a Nazi scheme to collapse the British economy with fake currency. But gold? Never found. Some say the SS dumped vast quantities of wealth into alpine lakes as the Reich fell, hoping to retrieve it later. If so, nature may have swallowed those treasures forever. Yet the strangest part of the story isn't what's missing, but what was recovered. Allied forces seized thousands of looted paintings, sculptures, and rare manuscripts from salt mines in Austria and Germany. The scale was staggering, millions of cultural artifacts. But the monetary wealth, the gold bars, the diamonds, the Swiss accounts, was harder to trace. And that's where the trail of Hitler's hidden millions begins to blur into secrecy. Chapter 3. Swiss banks and silent accounts. If there's one place where Hitler's money could have survived, it's Switzerland. The neutral nation's banks became a safe haven for Nazi wealth during the war. Officially, Swiss banks denied it. For decades, they insisted they had no involvement in laundering Nazi gold, but the truth eventually leaked out. Documents revealed that the Reichsbank transferred hundreds of millions in looted gold through Swiss channels. Much of this gold had been stripped from occupied central banks, or worse, melted down from personal belongings of Holocaust victims. Swiss banks accepted it, stamped it, and circulated it as legitimate. For Hitler and his regime, it was the perfect money laundering system. But what about his personal fortune? Investigators after the war tried to trace private accounts linked directly to Hitler. A few surfaced, containing royalties and industrial donations, yet many accounts were closed, wiped, or hidden behind layers of anonymity. Swiss law guaranteed secrecy, and for decades, families of Holocaust victims were unable to access even basic information. Only in the 1990s did lawsuits force banks like UBS and Credit Suisse to release dormant accounts. Some revealed shocking deposits dating back to the Nazi era. But Hitler's personal millions? If they existed, they were long gone, claimed by insiders or erased by banking secrecy. Still, intelligence agencies never stopped searching. Declassified CIA and MI6 files reveal ongoing efforts to track missing Nazi assets well into the Cold War. Rumors circulated that Hitler's money funded rat lines, the escape networks used by high-ranking Nazis to flee to South America. Argentina, Brazil, and Chile became safe havens, with whispers that Nazi gold underwrote entire communities of exiles. In Paraguay, Bolivia, even remote parts of Colombia, investigators chased the trail of lost Nazi wealth, yet each lead seemed to evaporate, leaving behind only conspiracy and suspicion. Did Hitler himself ever see this money? Almost certainly not. By April 1945, he was trapped in Berlin, broke in practical terms, living off the last reserves of the collapsing Reich. Yet the millions he had amassed didn't vanish overnight. They moved into banks, into the hands of cronies, into the shadows of history. Chapter 4. Myth, Mystery, and the Unanswered Question. So, what really happened to Hitler's hidden millions? The honest answer? Nobody knows for certain. Some of his fortune was destroyed in the chaos of 1945. Allied troops seized art and gold, but vast amounts disappeared. Some of it undoubtedly flowed into Swiss banks, where secrecy shielded it for decades. Some may still lie hidden, buried in lakes, mountains, or forgotten vaults. But the bigger truth is psychological. The mystery endures not just because of the missing money, but because of what it represents. Hitler's hidden millions are the ultimate symbol of unpunished evil, the wealth of a dictator who never faced justice in court, whose stolen riches may still be locked away, while victims' families were left with nothing. It's a wound that history has never fully healed. Treasure hunters keep digging, historians keep investigating, banks keep denying, yet the allure persists, the dream that somewhere in a tunnel, a vault, or a bank ledger lies the key to unraveling one of the greatest financial mysteries of the modern age. And maybe that's the final twist. Perhaps the money itself no longer matters. Perhaps the legend of Hitler's hidden millions has become more valuable than the gold it describes, a story of greed, secrecy, and unanswered questions that refuses to die.